episode of AI Product Leader. Every week we shine a light on what it really takes to join the AI world. We have the real conversations with founders, product leaders, AI experts, technologists, and everything in between to understand where the world of AI is right now and what the path looks like to become an AI product leader. Have a question or topic? Email us at support@AICareerBoost and join the conversation. So let's dive into the AI world together. I'm your host, Polly Allen, and I'm the founder of AI Career Boost, where I spend my time helping product managers and leaders navigate the world of AI and transition into AI leadership roles. I've spent my career in both the product management and software development worlds, and I'm an ex-Alexa principal product manager, where I successfully launched the first AI-generated answers on Alexa back in 2020. I was fortunate enough to be recognized as one of the top 100 women of the future, and I'm super excited to be here today to share what I know and to show you some of the pathways that some of my guests have taken to get into the world of AI. And I'm so excited to have our guest joining us today, Maureen Burns. She's a powerhouse in the world of product and design leadership with over 8 years of experience driving business growth through innovative solutions. Maureen has carved out an impressive career spanning B2B, B2C, and B2B2C products across various business models. Her expertise in product design, customer experience, and early-stage venture design has led to influential roles, including her current position as Director of User Experience at Triple Whale, an AI data platform company, and previous roles at renowned companies like Dyson and Yahoo. Maureen's passion for creating products that solve real problems while delighting users has not only generated substantial value for her customers and stakeholders, but has also established her as a sought-after advisor for early-stage startups. Help me in welcoming Maureen, a visionary leader who continues to shape the future of product development and UX for AI and data-driven products. Welcome, Maureen. I'm so glad you could join us today. How have you been?
Thanks, Polly, for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good. Yes, I'm having a great day, enjoying the summer. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for joining, and I'm super excited to dive into your past before getting into tech. You have a really interesting background that you were heavily involved in the arts and curation and areas not traditionally thought of as people who are now, heading up senior roles at data and AI companies. So could you tell us a little bit more about your background?
Yes, it is true. I do have a much more eclectic, unusual background, I think, for tech. Some may classify them as like some poor life choices, but it was a good exploration for me in my early career. I just started in the fine arts and in arts administration. I have always been a really creative person. I love being creative. But there's always been a side of me that really enjoys being strategic. And I really like to solve and approach problems in a strategic way. So there's always been these two sides of me that have had this tension of like wanting to be creative, but also really enjoying being strategic and analytical. And I'd say that my career has really been defined by like figuring out this tension for myself. That really came into focus for me when I discovered design. At the time it was called design strategy, but it was using human-centered design to approach problems, user problems, business problems, but in creative ways. And this really married the two sides of myself of being strategic, solving real life problems, but also being very creative. And that took me into the world of design. And started with innovation design at Deloitte, did innovation consulting, worked on cross-functional teams to use the human-centered design process to build and validate novel products and experiences. And then I had a client from there take me into startups. I helped them build and launch and spin out a new venture, and then went on to run that as the co-founder and CEO. And then ever since then, I've been in tech and in startups and have loved it. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about how I kind of found myself in the tech world, definitely starting from following my passions and trying to find a middle ground of combining different elements of myself together.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Did you find the leap intimidating? Like that first time you were like going more from the design side into the first like tech-related roles, where you're not building the technology, but even just being in the room with technologists, et cetera. Did you find that intimidating at first? How did you bridge that gap?
It was definitely intimidating. I would say that first happened for me in the startup that I was running as the co-founder. And I leveraged my network a lot and asked for help and really leaned into getting mentoring and reading as much as I could about how to build a startup, how to build products. So it was definitely a huge learning curve, but I wasn't. I don't know. I think I focused a tactic that was helpful for me to sort of overcome maybe that fear or that barrier, is that I was really focused on solving the user problem. And so I was going to learn anything I could about how to build product, how to run a business, how to build a business in order to solve that user problem. And that's, I think, what helped me get through any of those barriers.
Right, exactly. That's fantastic. I think that's so true. Our passion for the problem and the user is the thing that can kind of help you find the energy to get over some of those things that seem intimidating at first.
Yes, and I would argue that it's almost like the role of the designer as well, is that you have to build the systems to solve the problem. And if that means a business system, then you got to figure that out. If that means building out a product, then that means, that's your job as a designer. And so definitely have an expansive view of design now since then. So I hope other designers out there listening to this also absorb that and feel ownership expanding into other fields, because that's also your job, is to know them to design a better solution.
Super true. You've come so far now that, it's not just tech, but you're actually heading up the user experience for an AI platform product. So an actual data platform specifically for AI, where you're being asked to have empathy for the developers and the really techie people who are using it, right? Can you tell us a little more about what you're doing today at Triple Whale?
Yes. So I can tell you some of the problems that we're, facing. So Triple Whale is a marketing attribution software. So we give users, our customers, a source of truth of what of where their audience comes from across their marketing channels. And we are trying to figure out right now how to help our customers leverage the power of an LLM and bring it to their business analytics to either accelerate report building or uncover more actionable insights faster, or help them uncover correlations that only maybe an LLM would find, so that they can make faster business decisions and grow their business faster. And so this is sort of the core problem that we're sort of figuring out right now is how do we help them leverage the power of an LLM? And I think this is a really interesting problem from a design standpoint, because an LLM right now feels like magic. I'm sure we all feel that way.
It's the logo, right? We're all using the magic wand for the logo, apparently, for AI.
Exactly. Feels like magic, because you can ask it to do anything and it can answer most everything. But at the same time, it presents users with that blank canvas challenge of because you have infinite choices, you face paralysis. So how do you actually use and get the most out of it? And so there's this barrier to actually using it to apply it to your analytics. And so how do you effectively and efficiently use it to surface insights is a real challenge for our customers. So that's a big area that we're kind of exploring. There's do you read Benedict Evans? I really enjoy his newsletter. I recommend your readers or your listeners follow him. But he has a really interesting metaphor to describe sort of the moment that we're in with LLMs. And he kind of compares it to when GUIs were first created at Xerox PARC in the 1970s, where it was a big step change in who could use computers, because you wouldn't need to learn keyboard commands. Instead, you just had to click on different, whatever you needed. And so LLMs right now look like another step change in the level of generalization for a piece of software, because it could be one piece of software could become any tool. But what's the paradox of this, and this is what's painful for us right now, the paradox of this is that an LLM, like a ChatGPT, with a chat interface is that it's both a step forward beyond graphical user interfaces, and it's a step back as well, because of that barrier that you have to memorize, like all the different types of prompts to get the right level of specificity of what you need to create a visualization. And then does that mean that we have to create specific UI interfaces that then, take us to specific UI interfaces that then not make it generalized? I don't know, it's an interesting tension.
Yeah, like I totally agree. You said it really well earlier where you're like, we have these degrees of freedom, but it's kind of paralyzing because you have this like paradox of choice and you get overwhelmed. It's much like going into a store and there's too many choices and people walk out, right? The psychology of buying. I've been fascinated lately just talking to more and more people that aren't necessarily in tech and fascinated by the fact they're like, yeah, I've heard of ChatGPT, I've heard all about it. Yeah, I should really use it for something, but I haven't actually even tried it. I'm like, what? Like, this is the whole point, is that like you basically have the power of like a software developer to build any tool you want right now just by telling it what to do. And no one's doing it because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know like the universe of what they can do, how far to push it. So they're like, oh, I can't even try. And that's the design challenge overall, I feel, right? Is like, ooh, I can turn this into another like form with drop-down lists for a particular task, but is that
really the direction that we want to go? Right. That's a really interesting tension. And I just saw this really interesting graph that like hundreds of millions of people have used ChatGPT, but most people haven't come back and haven't really adopted it in their workflows. And whenever we get a new tool, we start by forcing it to fit our existing ways. And so create these like normal user interfaces to make it usable for me because that's what I know today. And then over time, we need to sort of change the work in order to fit the new tool, in order to get the most out of an LLM, right? Like, so we're trying to walk that balance of like, how do we help our customers get the most out of it today? And then where do we help them evolve their current business workflows so they can get the most out of the LLM? And how do we walk that balance?
Yeah, exactly. Are we trying to tell them to have a new workflow? In which case you're like, advocating for changing their workflow, which is change is very, very hard. I'm sure as a designer, you appreciate that more than anyone.
Change is really hard. Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, do we really want to change, or do we walk this thing back to meet them where they are? Yeah. Oh, fascinating. Well, it's been a really amazing journey and transformation for you. I know how far you've come in terms of your deep understanding of LLMs, their capabilities. How did you make that jump as someone who doesn't have that, necessarily have a technical background?
I like my jump into like AI and understanding.
Yeah, AI, exactly. How did you even get started?
I started reading about it as much as I could. And then I started looking for courses online to help me better understand some of the possibilities of it, but also the constraints of it. I took your course, obviously at Reforge. It was a 3-day workshop where it was building conversational AI or designing for conversational AI. And it was probably one of the most informed and detailed and actionable courses I had ever taken or had ever seen about building and designing for LLMs at that point, which made me then start to stalk you and then take your next course. And I think that
can you stalk the willing? What's that? Stalk away.
And then I think your course really helped me get over my fear of actually just starting to build with LLMs, and helped me, and it just really brought it home just how easy it is to get started with a bunch of any of the no-code tools that are out there and start applying it to use cases. So I feel like getting hands-on experience was really helpful for me, and also I think like probably taking your course, like getting hearing about your experience building Alexa and helping me connect the dots of then how would I manage this or build this internally within an organization and connect it to real use cases.
Oh, fantastic. I think that the use cases you pick, like you have to find a use case you relate to, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where building your own projects on a use case that you can identify, that really helps a lot of people kind of make it real, right? Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. So, in one sentence, if you were talking to someone who wanted to join the world of AI, where would you tell them to get started? What advice would you give?
I think it would be that. I think it would be, if you don't have a bunch of resources, like there's a ton of content on YouTube. Get started with an easy no-code tool, or use what's out of the box with Claude or ChatGPT to apply it to a use case that you have in your life or that you see around you. And I think that will teach you a lot about how, like, both the constraints and the power of an LLM, and also which user use cases are most relevant for an LLM.
Yeah, exactly. I find often people try something and then halfway through they're like, oh wait, this is actually better. This is just a form. Like, people want to use a form and like there's no AI needed, right? But even to have that gives you such a better sense of where to apply it and where to not than just talking about it, hearing about it. That's fantastic advice. Completely agree. Awesome. Well, we have time for one last segment, and that's our plug. Maureen, do you have anything you want to plug that's coming up?
Nothing for me that's coming up, but I'd say, like, I love connecting with people in the space. If you're interested, like, find me on LinkedIn.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
And I would say another plug I would have is I really enjoyed your episode with Anne Cantera. Mm-hmm. That was, I would recommend people go watch that too.
Oh, fantastic. Excellent. I'll make sure we link to that in the show notes. Awesome. And on my side, I want to plug, we have a free masterclass coming up on August 6th. It's the Path to AI Product Manager. Whether you're a product manager, designer, business leader, it really is spelling out the skills you need to get savvy and be able to lead AI projects successfully. And that's coming up on August 6th, 12 to 1 p.m. I also have the class on Reforge coming up, the one Maureen was discussing. We've since expanded it from conversational to generative AI products in general, but it's generative AI from idea to MVP. So if you want some hand-holding getting started with your very first generative AI project and getting hands-on, that starts on August 9th on Reforge. We'll provide the link there. And lastly, as always, I love to shamelessly plug the show, so don't forget to like and subscribe. Go to your favorite podcast platform and give us 5 stars or whatever the right thing to do there is, please. And if you want to reach out with questions, we'd love to get questions, answer topics you want us to address. Email us at support@AI Career Boost. We'd love to hear what you'd like to see more of in the show. And that's another episode of AI Product Leader. Maureen, thanks so much for joining us. I think your experience is invaluable, and I think your advice has been really actionable and helpful for the folks who are looking to get into the space. So thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Polly.